Fake news and police copter cover-ups for November 8th. At 11:05 a.m., the small police helicopter flew down my street from the Solero Oliveira end. It crossed over 24092 and then crossed over the October 16th spot. And it was doing a tail wave and a cover-up for the straight line dart that originated at 24092 down the street at the fake transformer fire event. And it crossed out over 24191. And so I'm only trying to figure this out now, but I've noticed that they've sent the police copter and a Cessna tandem out over 24191. Then they've also sent the small helicopter many times, and then two Cessnas tandem. So I'm trying to figure out what the purpose of that is. And then today they had the large helicopter come by with the spotlight for a little bit. So I think that something's happening with auditing the October 16th event and how he decided to fly back over my roof after he did all the power circles, and then they said that nothing happened and it was just a Cessna, and then they sent a helicopter with a spotlight by afterward, possibly to solidify it as some kind of exit route, that's why the police copter flew back over my house. So I'm not sure if that's why the small copter also exited out over 24191 today at 11:05 a.m. But he did the straight line dart, and then he did some descend drops as he went out beyond Geronimo Montia intersection. At 12:42 p.m., the small police helicopter showed up, and I had no storage just at that time, so it was probably waiting around, and they probably told him to come at that time because I had been low on storage, and then I ran out. And so it came up from Geronimo, in between Geronimo Cordillera and Geronimo Montia, and it crossed up behind 24191 and came slightly close to Solero Oliveira intersection, but slightly closer to my house. And it mobbed out up through the park and then went up towards Geronimo Margeurite intersection, but slowly, somewhere between Geronimo Margeurite and Geronimo and Margeurite Trabuco intersection, so it went kind of straight out. And it was the small police helicopter, and it was tuned to sound heavy, and it did descend drops and tilts and pulses and all of the variations as it went out into the park. At 5 o'clock to 5:40 around just as the sun set, and then for about an hour, there were all kinds of police Cessna copters flying around doing cover-ups. They were just all at the same time. They were doing circles on all of the damning spots. There was one doing circles on 24092, another one just sitting around on Falda, Deseo, Caladad, another one doing it on the two-story house, and then on the October 16th spot. And so they were all just flying around. They had different variations of the flashing lights, and then when I would look at them and count them, then they would change them, and some of them had spotlights on. So the spotlight is significant. It has something to do with the October 30th event day where they did the spotlight randomly, possibly, and then also the night when they flew it over my house on October 16th. And so at 6:14 p.m., the large police helicopter flew up from kind of like Geronimo Montia, if it flew up the curvature of Oliveira Street as it continues down to Geronimo at the entrance of the ice blocking hill of Eldorado Park. If came up that curvature, and it had only a headlight on, and it had only some small running lights, and it had no tail flasher, so the large tail light, even though they turn it orange or white, wasn't on. There was just a little tail flasher, and it wasn't all the way at the end of the tail. It was only partially towards the end, and I think that was to make it look like a smaller helicopter. And so then it crossed up basically the curvature of Oliveira as it comes up Solero Oliveira intersection, except a little bit closer to my house, and then it crossed over the fireman's house and then my backyard, and it continued up towards Oliveira Deseo intersection and then out over Alicia Park. And it was tuned differently than the regular large police helicopter. It was tuned oddly, like the small police helicopter that was tuned to sound heavy. And so I think it was flown out with no lights so that I would mix it up with the small helicopter. And that wasn't the case at all. I noticed the size anyways, but then the spread of the lights just made me sure that it was a large helicopter, and also the sound, the presence of the weight. You can't really, no matter what you do to tune it, you can tell the size just by the presence of the weight with the sound waves or something. I'm not sure how to explain it, but I know it was a large helicopter. That's the point. And so at 9:21 p.m., the small police copter crossed over Oliveira Deseo intersection, and then it crossed over the October 16th, through the October 16th event spot. So it was coming towards me, towards my house from Oliveira Deseo, and it crossed through the October 16th spot, and then it went out over 24191. And again, that's the same as the tandem Cessna, the tandem police copter in Cessna, and it has something to do with possibly flying like over my house, or I'm not sure exactly what they're trying to create with that, but I know it's some kind of fabricated evidence because of all the consistencies, and then trying to send out different aircrafts in the same spot.